Greetings, folks. It's a pleasure to see you today. My name is Dustin Cormier. This is another episode of How to Rock Astrology. Today we're going to be doing a bit more work on the character of Indra, who is the lord of Jyestha Nakshatra. Of course, the source of this information today is coming from the divine forces of the Lunar Nakshatras as portrayed in the Vedas by the author known as Radhe. This lady is, admittedly, she is a sidereal practitioner of Vedic jyotish. She uses sidereal rashis. But, as we know, the nakshatras are something that are kind of shared between tropical and sidereal Vedic astrologers. So it is still useful to hear Radha's very well done, meticulous research done on the characters of the deities who rule the nakshatras from the classical Vedic literature and texts. It's always useful to hear about the character of the nakshatra deity to get a little bit information about that nakshatra. But also, I just love all things Vedic. And these characters are a sublime circle of consciousness archetypes that are going to be useful for anybody born on any planet at any time. That's the Vedas for you. Indra is a particularly deep character. If you're seeing this, you might have already seen, I did a video describing the character of Jyestha Nakshatra through the Taittiriya Brahmana. And that has been, that comes from the transliteration of Ernst Wilhelm and Victor Kara. And you can find that on my YouTube channel. This I would consider a little extra information through the particular deity, Indra, from the classic Vedas. Now, let's start to dig into it. This is chapter 11 of our book, and I believe it reads, Hail Indra, Jyestha. We begin with a little quote from the Rig Veda, Mandala 4, chapter 17. The ever-slaying, bold, and furious Indra, the bright bolt's lord, lord of the thunderbolt, infinite, strong, and mighty, who slayeth the demon Vritra and acquireth booty, giver of blessings, Maghavan, Indra the bountiful, is the bounteous. Now, this is the first section. I think this is going to be one of our longer videos because I think seems to be more chapters. Because Jyestha is mentioned so many times, there's so many stories about him. There's lots of sections in this chapter. We're going to begin with section 1. It's resourceful and street savvy Shatakratu. Resourceful and street savvy Shatakratu. There's little controversy over Indra's status as the most celebrated god of the Vedas. His battles against the asuras, serpents, and rakshasas, the evil beings, are never-ending. Countless are the hymns in the Rig Veda to his glorification. No force matches Indra's might and valor, and no weapon can equal the mass annihilation that his thunderbolt brings. As an Aditya, Indra's abode is the heavens. Of course, Indra is one of the 12 classical Adityas born of Aditi. Yet Indra crusades the tempestuous atmosphere, invigorated by the Sama draft, and accompanied by his attendants, the shining Maruts, aka the Rudras. Now, in the Rig Veda, the Maruts are the children of Rudra Shiva, who are also known as the Rudras. Now, you can find that in chapter 17, talking about Rudra and his howling sons, which would be, I believe, Ardra. And the character of Ardra, his nakshatra is Ardra Nakshatra is ruled by Rudra and the Rudras, the Maruts. The wide mid-space between heaven and earth serves as Indra's Colosseum. Here, this ruddy bull rides upon a golden carriage drawn by two robust bay horses. Indra's unique faculty is Indravirya. It's the physical and mental vigor with which he tackles the challenges of life. Such vigor is indicated by the epithet Shatakratu, 100 powers. This term is embellished unto Indra by Ganda. And this is a quote. The quote comes from Epithets in the Rig Veda. It's a book. So this term is embellished by Ganda. Quote, "It may rather be vaguely described as a kind of effective mental power of intelligence, mental energy and determination, which enables its possessor to have a solution for a practical difficulty." And elsewhere, of 100-fold effective mental power and 100-fold inventiveness and resourcefulness. This is the appellation given to Indra. Indra is without a doubt the stud amongst the Nakshatra Devatas. As well, he's renowned for his spirited courage and soma-filled belly. But these alone fail to account for his endless conquests. As Shatakratu, Indra marches onto the field of battle, not only with a body of steel and audacious mindset, but also mental fortitude, resourcefulness, and what the author here defines as street savvy. With great reverence, the Brahmanas liken Indra to the fiercely blazing sacrificial fire that burns with a loud crackling voice, imitating the sound balada, conferring or imparting power, as it were, on account of which all beings flee trembling from him. That little quote comes from the Aitareya Brahmana, I believe it's called. Yeah, Aitareya Brahmana. Chapter 3. Now, several godheads are implored by a triad of sacrificial names. For example, Vishnu is triply invoked as Vikramana, the striding one, Vikranta, the one with wide strides, and Kranta, the one who outsteps. Savitri, another example, is known as Savitri, the stimulator, Prasavitri, the impeller, and Asavitri, the exciter. Agni's infinite nature is acknowledged by his threefold appellation. Agni Pavamana, that's the clear-flowing Agni, fire on earth. And then there's Agni Pavaka, that's a bright Agni, it's a lightning in the atmosphere. And Agni Shuki, white Agni, the sun in the heavens above. The Yajamana, desiring physical vigor and protective power, reveres Indra by his triple epithet. To Indra, Amhamuk, it's delivering from distress. He whose rival is superior to him is seized by distress. To Indra, Vaimridha, dedicated to Indra. Therewith one drives away one's adversaries. To Indra, Indrayavant, it's powerful and mighty. Thereby one bestows Indriya upon oneself. That's from a book called Rice and Barley Offerings in the Veda. Now, Indra is truly one of the most multifaceted and complicated Devatas, as evidenced by the sheer volume of his Vedic epithets. He possesses not 100, but 1,000 powers. although well celebrated for his brawny arms, agile use of the Vajra, the thunderbolt, and his fearless mindset. These ample acknowledgments do little justice to Indra's ingenious nature. Similarly, the best this author can offer in the limited space of a single chapter is a few highlights of his Vedic themes. These include 1. Indra's death-defying feats against the Asuras, aided by the Soma draft. 2. Indra's Mahabhisheka, or royal investiture. 3. Indra's knowledge of the divine sciences and mystical forces of the universe. 4. Indra and his countless women. And 5. The Maruts, the Rudras, as Indra's beloved companions. Now, let's begin our chapter on his death-defying feats. Of course, the first victory notch on Indra's thunderbolt is for the brutal mutilation and slaying of the demon Vritra. Now, we have a footnote here that says, in a separate battle, Indra also kills Vritra's brother Vala, thereby desecrating an entire family. In the later Puranic literature, Indra slays his own father-in-law, Puloma, and receives the appellation Pulomajit, the conqueror of Pulaman. Now, referring back to this first victory notch on Indra's thunderbolt, it's the brutal mutilation and slaying of the demon Vritra. This epic battle earns Indra the triumphant appellation Vajrabahu. It's the wielder of the thunderbolt. And it catapults him to the top as the most frequently eulogized Rig Vedic Devata. In this first of many campaigns against the Asuric demon forces, Indra institutionalizes his battlefield code of conduct, or lack thereof. For example, he sanctions the consumption of intoxicating substances. Quote from the Rig Veda, Mandala 1, chapter 32. Impetuous as a bull, he chose the soma, and in 3 sacred beakers drank the juices. Maghavan Indra grasped the thunder for his weapon, and smote to death this firstborn of the dragons Vritra. Physical disfiguration and bodily dismemberment of the enemy is never questioned. The quote from Rig Veda, same mandala and chapter, reads, "Footless and handless, Vritra lay with scattered limbs dissevered," his limbs scattered all over. Truly, nothing is too outlandish when it comes to Indra's treatment of the Asuras. Even the slaughter of demonic women and mothers is justified. Quote from the Rig Veda, "Then humbled was the strength of Vritra's mother, for Indra hath cast his deadly bolt against her." That's weird. I'm just taking a moment because there's a footnote in here that has an A in it. I don't know what to do about that, but that's okay. Excuse me for the interruption. Now, never before in the history of the Vedas has a Devata won such lasting fame for a single heroic encounter. Never before has the star system been so conspicuous within the heavenly realm. Indra's and Jyestha's Taittiriya Brahmana invitatory and oblation verses emphasize Indra's great conquest over Vritra and his fondness for the Soma draft. So this comes from the Taittiriya Brahmana. The Taittiriya Brahmana has the main Nakshatra sutras in it, but it's also got other parts of it. So the invitation reads, Indra follows Jyestha, the nakshatra. Under this nakshatra constellation, under which, in his fight with Vritra, he overcame Vritra, may we, milking the beverage of immortality, Soma, overcome hunger, misery, and failure in the sacrifice. Now, in the oblation, the song of praise, we read, "Let Jyestha, who is milking the sweet oblation of Soma for Indra, the destroyer of strongholds, the fierce bull, the invincible one, the victorious one, the bountiful one, give broad free space to the sacrificer." So this is saying in the ancient sacrifices, they would say these mantras in order to invoke the powers of the gods. This is invoking Indra to give power to the sacrificer, to the person doing the mantras, so that Indra can give them broad, free space. But appreciation of Indra's supremacy does not stop here. As extolled in the hymns of the Rig Veda, Indra's battle against Vritra is only the first in a series of daring battles. Particularly worthy of mention is Indra's slaying of demon Sambara and the decimation of hundreds of thousands of warrior Asuras. Notable also is the massacre of 60,000 demons who had confiscated a king's empire. With each triumph, another victory notch is etched in Indra's thunderbolt. Strangely, this seemingly invincible Devata harbors doubts about his ability to conquer such a colossal force as Vritra. We hear in the Shatapatha Brahmana, let me just make sure that that's right, Shatapatha Brahmana, Indra, when he had hurled the thunderbolt at Vritra, thinking himself to be the weaker, and fearing lest he had not killed him, laid him low and hid himself. The gods, also lying low, summon Vayu Svati and request him to quickly go to where Vritra lies and assure them of the dragon's demise. In this moment, overcome by self-doubt, Indra retreats from the front line during the final moments of conquest before ensuring victory. On the other hand, Indra's successes often also go to his head, as might be expected from such a highly touted god of military conquests. Swelling with pride at having defeated Vritra, Indra boldly pulls rank on Prajapati, who is at the time considered foremost of the gods. Indra insists, "I will have thy rank, Prajapati, that of the supreme deity, and I will be great." That's written in the Aitareya Brahmana. Even Prajapati's rank is not enough for Indra. At his victory celebration, Indra confronts the other gods with an endless list of the distinctions and trophies that he requires. He demands the rights to the Mahendra, the great chief or leader, Soma vessel, the midday Soma oblation, the Tristubh meter, and the list goes on. Now, about the midday Soma oblation, we have a footnote that says there are 3 daily Soma offerings in Hinduism. The morning libation, dedicated to Agni and the Vasus, the midday libation, dedicated to Indra and the Rudras, and the evening libation, dedicated to Aditi and the Vishvadevas. Now, Indra also demands the rights to the Tristubha meter. The Tristubha meter represents Indra's worldly dominance and power, with its 3 padas of 11 syllables each. It also refers to Indra's leadership of the 11 Rudras. You can see more about that in the chapter on Agni in this video series. Now, horrified by Indra's outrageous demands, the gods plead. Thou hast chosen for thyself all. Let some of these things be ours also. Indra brashly replies, No, why should anything belong to you? Indra. That's also coming from the Aitareya Brahmana, chapter 3. Indeed, the all-conquering, ever-vigilant Indra possesses some not-so-lovable traits. One gets the sense that the gods have tremendous respect for Indra, but at times aren't particularly fond of his ways. Although he commands worldly recognition and receives liberal rewards for each conquest, Indra is at times blind to his battlefield flounders. He also fails to acknowledge contributions made by his compatriots. For example, little credit is given to Agni and Soma, along with others who are pivotal to the defeat of Vritra. Both of these habits prevail as themes in several legendary battles. So he's blind to his own battlefield flounders, and he fails to acknowledge contributions made by his compatriots. Let's see some examples. Once, Indra slays Tvastri's son, Vishvarupa, the wearer of all forms. You can see more about that in the chapter on Chitra and Tvastri. In retaliation, and aware of Indra's obsession for Soma, Tvastri whips up a massive batch of Soma with the intent on getting Indra totally plastered on it. True to his modus operandi, Indra immediately consumes the entire lot. Little does Indra know that Tvastri has bewitched the Soma. Fully inebriated, Indra went asunder in every direction, and his energy or vital power, his Indra Virya, flowed away from every limb. That's a little incident that comes from the Shatapatha Brahmana. Now, observing this pitiful situation, Asura Namusi attacks Indra, thinking, I will seize upon his energy, his vital power, his Soma drink, his food, Soma. Again, that comes from Shatapatha Brahmana. Indra's demise is all but certain as Namuchi robs him of his vigor, sucking every ounce of Soma from his body. At last, the Ashvins and Sarasvati come to his rescue and successfully revive Indra. You can see a bit more about that on the chapter on the Ashwinis that will be done eventually in this series. Even though it is Indra's inexcusable behavior which got him into such a pickle, firstly killing Tvastri's son and then overdosing on Soma, his warrior reputation remains fully intact. Indeed, Indra is awarded his own sacrificial yajna, the Satraumani, along with the epithet Sutrauman, the good protector. Now, the writer of a particular book called The Texts of the White Yajurveda, Griffith comments that the Sautraumani was a sacrifice originally instituted to expiate and counteract the evil effects of excessive indulgence in Soma drinking. Now, another author named Dumont notes for the reader that there are two kinds of Sautraumani ceremonies. One type, the Karaka Sautraumani, is performed after the Rajasuya, the royal consecration, or after the Agnakayana, the piling of the sacrificial altar. And the other type, Kaukali Sautraumani, is performed independent of any other ceremony. And that's from a book called the Kaukali Sautraumani in the Taittiriya Brahmana. Great research that this author does on this book. Now, despite Indra's battlefield blunders and oversized ego, no other god compares in valor, strength, and distinction to Indra. This explains Indra's sacrificial wish for preeminence amongst the gods. And we have from here another section from the Taittiriya Brahmana, chapter 3. Indra desired, "May I conquer preeminence among the gods." He offered that well-known sacrificial cake, served on 11 potsherds, and made of great rice grains, to Indra, i.e. to himself, and to Jyestha, the preeminent one who is his nakshatra. Consequently, he conquered preeminence among the gods. He indeed conquers preeminence among his equals, he who offers that oblation and who thus knows it. So, on this occasion, after the cheap oblation, he, the sacrificer, the person who's doing this mantric sacrifice ceremony, offers the additional oblations, saying, to Indra, Svaha, to Jyestha, Svaha, to preeminence, Svaha, to conquest, Svaha. That little bit comes from Taittiriya Brahmana. Now, any frailties are quickly overlooked when Maghavan, one who is bountiful or liberal, returns victorious from battle, sharing liberally his war booty with the rich and poor alike. To quote the Rig Veda, Mandala 4, "Alone renowned as Maghavan in battles, Indra frighteneth away assembled armies. He bringeth us the booty that he winneth. May we, well loved, continue in his friendship." Now such booty includes hundreds of conquered cities, confiscated women, thousands of kine and horses, and, most precious of all, an abundance of rain. Truly, Indra's kingdom and its people flourish grandly with each triumphant battle. Let's see here, okay. As with his victories, Indra's epithets are endless. They include Shakra, mighty or powerful; Purandara, destroyer of the strongholds; Arisunda, or Arisudana, the foe destroyer; Ugra, savage or fierce; Vrishabha, the bull; Shakipati, the lord of might; and Mahendra, great chief or leader. Of the 33 divine forces, more ride on Indra's coattail as Devatadvandvas than that of any other god. So the Devatadvandvas are dual gods. Sometimes the gods come together and share their arcs of consciousness, as I would say it. Now, there's not too many gods. Usually you'll see like Mitra, Varuna. They only pair with each other. But many other gods will fuse with Indra to take advantage of the power of Indra. Now, perhaps of all the Devatas, extremist Indra is most in need of a balancing force. They include Agni and Indra, which together becomes Indragni. We also have Vayu, who together with Indra becomes Indra Vayu. Varuna also merges with Indra and becomes Indra Varuna. And Brihaspati even merges with Indra and becomes Indra Brihaspati. As well as Vishnu. Even Vishnu comes out as Indra Vishnu. And these are all Devatadvandvas. It's devas who merge together, and Indra is the center of all of these Devatadvandvas. Even magnificent Soma lives in service to Indra. arousing him to battle when the cause arises. Now this comes from Rig Veda, Mandala 8. Indra, transported with the soma juice, made vast in his bulk, strong in his neck and stout arms, smites the Vritras down. From the moment Indra is birthed, Soma becomes his nursemaid. And this is from Rig Veda, Mandala 3, chapter 48. Soon as the young bull sprang into existence, he longed to taste the pressed-out Soma's liquor. Desiring food, he came unto his mother, and on her breast beheld the pungent Soma. A little bit extra reading here as a footnote. We read in Rig Veda Mandala 7, chapter 98. Thou, newly born, for strength didst drink the Soma at this time. Your mother told thee of thy future greatness in that moment. That's about Indra. Now, weaned on Soma, Indra matures, strong in limb and mighty in mentality. So empowering and enrapturing is the Soma nectar that Indra becomes feverishly dependent upon it. He insists on having the first drop at each Soma libation. The hero Indra, the bull who overpowers the mighty, rushes like a ruddish bull towards the drop of Soma, for the first drop among the drops. That little quote comes from Taittiriya Brahmana, chapter 2. Urged on by the gods with Soma as their battle cry, Indra's sense of invincibility expands exponentially. For his battlefield glories, Indra is declared Shrestha, the highest of the gods. This explains why Jyestha, most senior or foremost, is the name of his nakshatra. As well, Indra is the eldest or most senior of the Aditya brothers. In the ancient scriptures, Jyestha is listed as Rohini. It's bright red or ruddy. This is a name typically reserved for Prajalpati's nakshatra, which we call Rohini. This is likely attributable to the brilliant red Antares, Jyestha's Yogatara star, which is similar in color to Aldebaran, which is Rohini's Yogatara star. So Antares, by the way, is the red star that occurs in the sign of Jyestha, and Antares literally translates to the anti-Mars. It's like the competitor of Mars. Now, just a quick short note, where we hear that Jyestha's Yogatara is Antares, that comes from the Surya Siddhanta, a book on Hindu astronomy. Interestingly, Antares and Aldebaran are opposite each other in the sky. Interesting. Yeah, Jyestha and Rohini. The redness of Antares, no doubt, reflects the bloodshed associated with Indra's battles, while that of Aldebaran depicts the sensual and alluring nature of the moon's favorite wife, Rohini. Now, I'd like to say at this point that this book is again being written by a sidereal practitioner. It is considered that the sidereal tradition of astrology believes that Rohini is the moon's favorite nakshatra. It just happens to be the case that in sidereal astrology, at the time 2,000 years ago when the stars were named, the sidereal constellation zodiac was formed, where Ashwini and Aries are locked into place together. It just happens to be the case that Rohini falls into Taurus at that time, which is, of course, where the moon is exalted. Now, 2,000 years later, Rohini is more in Gemini than Taurus. So Rohini is no longer exalted there. Take that with however many grains of salt you wish. As a tropical Vedic astrologer, I like to point these things out. But let's keep moving forward. Now, on our next section, we have a chapter entitled Long Live the King. A single valiant feat, the slaying of Vritra, earns Indra the appellation Maharaja, supreme sovereign, and consecrates him as monarch of heaven. That Indra merits such an elevated title is beyond reproach. All the gods agree upon his worthiness. The gods, headed by Prajapati, said to one another as they singled out Indra, "This one is among the gods the most vigorous, most strong, most valiant, most perfect, who carries best out any work to be done. Let us install him to the kingship over us." They all consent to perform this ceremony, Mahabhisheka, on Indra. And that came from the Aitareya Brahmana, chapter 8. Now, having secured the consensus of the masses, the next order of business is to fashion a throne befitting of such divine imperial power. Indra's throne seat is named the Rik Rupa, woven from sacred verses. The Riks, the verses of the Rig Veda, become its lengthwise threads. The Samas, the verses of the Sama Veda, form its crossway threads. And the Yajus, the verses of the Yajur Veda, its interval threads. The goddess of glory, Ushas, serves as its covering, and the goddess of fortune, Shri, becomes its pillow. As royal throne bearers, Savitri and Brihaspati are assigned the forelegs. Vayu and Pushan take the hind legs. Mitra and Varuna manage the top boards, and the Ashvins the sideboards. Not since the divine wedding of Surya and Soma has there been such a grandiose, star-studded celebration. Now you can read more about all of that, the great marriage that happened between Surya and Soma, which is very psychedelic stuff. You can read that in the chapter on Aryaman and Purva Falguni, as well as Bagha and Uttara Falguni. Now, lest there be even a single dissenter in the crowd, the Vishvadevas declare that everyone everywhere must deem Indra supreme. Turning to Indra, the gods acknowledge his sovereignty by granting many noble titles. This comes from the Aitareya Brahmana, chapter 8. The gods bestowed on him, Indra, by proclaiming him as universal ruler, Samraj. By proclaiming him also as enjoyer of pleasures, that's Poja, they made him father of pleasures that way. By proclaiming him as independent ruler, Svayambhu, that's Svayambhu, they granted him independence of rule in that way. By proclaiming him as distinguished king, Viraj, they conferred on him royal distinction. By proclaiming him king, Raja, they made him father of kings. By calling him one who has attained the highest desires, Sarvakamika, they granted him fulfillment of the highest desires. So that's from the Aitareya Brahmana. Uttering sacred mantras while sprinkling holy water, Prajapati sanctifies Indra into universal kingship. for the next 186 days. That's 6 consecutive 31-day periods. The category gods invest Indra in each of the 6 directions: east, west, south, north, up, and down, with similar rites and rituals. When complete, Indra obtained the leadership, precedence, and supremacy over all gods, became self-existing, an independent ruler, and having attained all desires wished for, he became immortal. That's also from Aitareya Brahmana, chapter 8. From that day forward, Indra's Mahabhisheka, the great coronation ceremony, serves as the prototype for all kingly investitures in the mundane world. Countless Vedic hymns to Indra's honor are I see. Cool. So now I'm seeing that there are these long footnotes at the back. But I can see that they're just, the first footnote that I missed is the word-for-word story from the Rig Veda about how Indra defeated Vritra. And then there's another one describing the priest with the knowledge about the Mahabhisheka ceremony. Which is cool, but it's a very side footnote. So we're going to keep going with where we are here. So from this day that was written down in the Aitareya Brahmana, from this day forward, Indra's Mahabhisheka, the great coronation ceremony, serves as the prototype for all kingly investitures in the mundane world, in the human world. Countless Vedic hymns to Indra's honor are henceforth recited by kings seeking preservation of royal status, peaceful rulership, and victory at war. It's declared that whether one is leader of a sprawling kingdom or elder of a local clan, he must propitiate Mahendra, the great chief, with a pap of red rice grains, considered the best of all grains, or a cake on 11 potsherds, for Indra is the leader of the 11 Rudras. Now there's a little footnote that comes from Shatapatha Brahmana. For Indra Jyestha, the most excellent, the priest prepares a pap of red rice grains. The priest or the king prepares a pap of red rice grains, hayana. Thereby Indra, the most excellent, leads him to excellence or lordship. And as to its being prepared of red rice, outstanding doubtless are those plants, the red rice, and outstanding is Indra. Therefore it is prepared of red rice. It comes from Shatapatha Brahmana. Now, it's interesting that Indra, such a key part of its appellation in its Nakshatra Sutra, is Rohini, the red growing one, where Antaras lies. Now, the Indra Mahotsava, a grand Indian festival in honor of Indra, was instituted as a ceremonial means for ensuring the king's continued supremacy and economic prosperity. At center stage is the Indradvaja, Indra's banner. It's a wooden pole symbolic of Indra's dominance and manly vigor. We read in a footnote that other Devatas possessing staff-like emblems include Vishnu, Devata of the sacrificial Yupa, symbolic of spiritual attainment, and Varuna, Devata of the Danta, symbolic of judicial commandership. So Varuna and Vishnu, they all have these poles that are this masculine phallic representation. Now, Varaha Mihira prescribes the use of the Indradvaja by the king. The king should raise the standard Indradvaja to the accompaniment of the unceasing shouts of the people, drowning the inauspicious sounds through the auspicious benedictions and invocations. The king of any place should cause the standard to be erected for the destruction of his enemies, in such a manner that the tip of the banner points to the city of the enemy, the banner being surrounded by the citizens who bow their heads in homage. That comes from the Brihat Samhita, Part 1, page 358. Interesting. Indra's anointment as universal ruler forever changes his life. The bar has been raised for this newly consecrated king, who, here to date, was revered primarily for his fearless battlefield exploits. Although physical strength and fearless mentality are must-haves for any king charged with protecting the universe, more is needed to satisfy what the masses come to expect of their newly appointed king. With great power comes great responsibility. Glorifying Indra, the people beseech the king daily for food, rain, health, happiness, livelihood, prosperity, sons, cattle, and much more. Although he is known for his independent rulership, Indra relies on outside counsel from time to time. Indeed, Indra's board of directors is composed of those godheads associated with the 11 court ratnas, the jewels, or kingly posts. They include Savitri, Agni, Brihaspati, Rudra, the Rudras, Varuna, Ashvins, and Pushan, as well as Indra's 3 wives, his first wife, his favorite wife, and his barren wife. Damn, that's hard. It's interesting, the characterization of these 3 wives. Now, on to our next section, entitled The Mystic. Jyestha's symbol is the talisman, or kundala, and this particular information comes from Muhurta Chintamani, page 87. The talisman is an ornament representing protection as well as possession of occult and mystical knowledge. According to the Atharva Veda, Indra wore a talisman to ensure victory in his encounters with demonic forces. With this talisman, Indra slew Vritra. He, full of device, destroyed the Asuras. He conquered both the heaven and earth. He conquered the 4 regions of space. He that wears this talisman verily is a tiger, a lion as well, and, 2, a bull. Moreover, a curtailer of enemies. And that actually comes from the Atharva Veda, the Saunika Samhita, chapter 8. I guess I would call that Mandala 8, chapter 53. How does a heroic, resourceful, and street-savvy king come to be known for his mystical knowledge and magical powers? Actually, Indra's passion for vidya is little known by most. Vidya meaning being a seer, a mystical seer of reality and truth. Still, though it's little known by many, Indra is the go-to Devata when the gods are in need of someone to instruct the sages. Take, for example, the knowledge of Ayurveda, which originated with Brahma. Brahma instructs Prajapati on the subject matter, and Prajapati, in turn, imparts the knowledge to the Ashvini Kumaras. Now, anxious to learn the sacred knowledge, Indra approaches the Ashvins, requesting they teach him the science in its entirety. Indra's desire for such knowledge is due to the existing state of affairs on earth. Suffering from illness and disease, men no longer engage in spiritual practices. Upon receiving instruction from the Ashvins, Indra conveys Ayurveda to the sages, and from there it is taught to mankind. The source for this information comes from the Karaka Samhita. Indra is schooled in other sacred disciplines. He teaches sage Bharadvaja, a student of the Vedas for 3 consecutive lifetimes, the mystery of the Savitra fire altar, i.e., the secret of immortality. This comes from the Taittiriya Brahmana. Indra says, "Come, Bharadvaja, and know this one Vidya," i.e., that's the Savitra fire altar. This indeed is the whole of science. Then he, Indra, taught him this Savitra fire altar. And then he, Bharadvaja, having known it and having become immortal, went to the heavenly world and obtained intimate union with Aditya, the sun. That's from Taittiriya Brahmana. Very cool. Although not intended as an inclusive list of Indra's mastery of occult wisdom, it would be amiss not to mention his expertise in sorcery. The Rig Veda declares, "Maghavan weareth every shape at pleasure, effecting magic changes in his body." It's Rig Veda, Mandala 3, chapter 53. Elsewhere we read, "Indra moves multiform by his illusions, for his bay steeds are yoked 10 times 100. It's Rig Veda, Mandala 6, chapter 47. Now, as summarized by Hildebrand, Indra's use of magic serves him well. And this comes from the book Vedic Mythology, Volume 2, by Hildebrand. We read, "Indra knows how to render innocuous the magic arts of his enemies, or even how to outwit them. Hence, Maya, creating illusion or magic, is not an exclusive quality of the Asuras. He, Indra, takes the shape of a woman, Mena, transforms himself into a horse's hair, becomes an ant, approaches Shunashepa as a human being, or as a Brahmana, lays a brick in the altar pile of the Asuras." And that comes from Hildebrand. Now, the next delightful chapter is going to be talking about Indra and his women. Of the 27 Nakshatra Devatas, Agni, Kritika, Agni, who rules Kritika Nakshatra, and Indra are most infamous for their sexual vigor and promiscuity. Throughout the Vedas and supporting texts, devotees glorify Indra in hopes of obtaining virya, or manly virility. Indeed, Indra's virile power qualifies him as one of a handful of gods revered by husbands and wives for eager sons. In Indra's case, valiant sons. In an Atharva Veda charm for sexual strength, this lusty bull is beckoned to place the virile force of a bull, horse, mule, goat, and ram combined into an impotent man. That comes from the Atharva Veda, chapter 12, or book 12. And again, this time for deprivation of virility, Indra is beckoned to turn a man into a eunuch by crushing his testicles with a pair of stones. Ugh. That's from the Atharva Veda, book 6. Unlike many of the nakshatra devatas, Indra is clearly a householder, for much ado is made of his wife Indrani. In the Rig Veda, Indrani is quite taken by her own erotic nature. No dame hath ampler charms than I, or greater wealth of love's delights. None with more ardor offers all her beauty to her lord Indra's embrace. My breasts and my head and my hips are quivering. It's Rig Veda, Mandala 10, chapter 86. In full agreement with his wife's self-praising words, Indra responds, the dame with the lovely hands and arms, with broad hair plates and ample hips. It's the same mandala, same chapter. Indeed, it is said that Indra chose Indrani from a number of competing goddesses, as she surpassed them all in voluptuousness. Now, despite Indrani's great charm and beauty, by the time of the Brahmanas, Indra is employing his battlefield shrewdness and high risk tolerance to the bedroom, often the bedroom of an exalted sage's wife. This is a story you might have heard. For instance, Indra is mockingly called Ahalyajara, the lover of Ahalya, for having seduced sage Gautama's wife, Ahalya. This legend, greatly embellished in the post-Vedic literature, the Puranas, etc., tells how Indra, who was a married man at the time, is very eager to copulate with the lovely dame, who is already the wife of a sage. Now, transforming himself into sage Gautama, he successfully conquers Ahalya. In one version of the story, Gautama discovers this hanky-panky and curses Indra that he will lose his testicles, and then Indra is duly turned into a eunuch. Now, this comes from the Mahabharata, actually. It's book 12 in one of the, section 300, it looks like. As I, the supreme personality of Godhead, have created the deities and the asuras and the great rishis, so I have placed the brahmanas in their respective situations and have to punish them occasionally. In consequence of his licentious assault on Ahalya, Indra was cursed by Gautama, her husband, through which Indra got a green beard on his face. Through that curse of Kausika, who's another name for Gautama the sage, or at least that seems to be right. The author has in italics that her assumption is that the curse of Kausika relates to another name for Gautama, but the author is unsure. Regardless, through that curse, Indra lost also his own testicles, which loss was afterwards, through the kindness of the other deities, made up by the substitution of the testicles of a ram. In another version, Gautama curses Indra with 1,000 yonis, female sex organs, whereupon Indra receives the name Sayoni, as one with a yoni. Regretting his hideous curse, Gautama later retracts it by transforming Indra's 1,000 yonis, or vaginas, basically, all over his body, into 1,000 eyes. Some say this is the reason behind Indra's epithet as Sahasrakshas, the 1,000-eyed. O Sakra, does it not still dwell in thy remembrance that Gautama had cursed thee in consequence of which thy body became disfigured by female organs of sex, with which, owing to the Rishi's compassion, were afterwards changed into organs of vision? That comes from the Mahabharata, book 13. Now, with so many tales and innuendos concerning Indra's manhood, it's little wonder that Indrani, also known as Shaki, is on the lookout for rival wives who might have eyes for her virile husband. In the following Rig Vedic Sukta, ascribed to Indrani, she expresses her desire to have Indra all to herself. From the sounds of things, Indra has met his match. This quote comes from the Rig Veda, Mandala 10, chapter 159. Yonder sun hath mounted up, and this my happy fate hath mounted high. Knowing this, I as conqueror have won my husband for mine own. I am the banner and the head, a mighty mistress am I. I am victorious, and my lord shall be submissive to my will. My sons are slayers of the foe. I am victorious over my lord. My song of triumph is supreme. Oblation, that which Indra gave, and thus grew glorious and most high. This have I offered, O ye gods, and rid me of each rival wife. Destroyer of the rival wife, sole spouse, victorious, conqueror, the other's glory have I seized as it were the wealth of weaker dames. I have subdued as conqueror these rivals, these my fellow wives, that I may hold imperial sway over this hero and the folk. So that's Indrani speaking of herself through the Rig Veda. Cool. Good on you, girl. Now, Indra's amorous adventures are rarely a run-of-the-mill. Just as extreme risks on the battlefield distinguish Indra amongst the gods, his bedroom exploits find their way into all areas of his public and personal life. Indra typically seduces the young and innocent, married but weak, or rich and famous. True of many nakshatra devatas, Indra is renowned for certain physical features. This includes his buffed body, his brawny arms, his thick neck, and his manly testicles. All of these represent Indra's faculty of virya, bodily might, and sexual virility. Now, in this next section, this will be our last section before we call it a day. This is Indra's beloved band of Maruts, aka the Rudras. Before leaving the subject of Indra, mention should be made of the Maruts and how they came to be his close compatriots and fellow demon fighters. The alliance between Indra and the Maruts survives well into the post-Vedic era of the Puranas, etc. Rulers of the intermediate space, the Maruts are frequently eulogized alongside Indra Jyestha, one whose chief is Indra. That's what that phrase means. Indra is their fearless leader, and they are his beloved hosts. Mayest thou, Maruts, be verily seen coming together with Indra, the fearless. You are both happy-making and of equal splendor. With the beloved hosts of Indra, with the blameless, hasting Maruts, the sacrificer cries aloud. That comes from Rig Veda, Mandala 1, chapter 6, very early. Now, this lifelong brotherhood begins at Indra's birth, for the Maruts are witnesses to that joyous occasion. Faithful devotees of Indra from the beginning, this band of storm gods go on to become his most zealous cheerleaders. Singing war cries, the Maruts prepare Indra for battle by pouring draughts of soma for their chief. But as with even the dearest of friendships, misunderstandings and disagreements occur. Exactly how Indra goes about resolving such conflicts provides insight into the inner workings of Indra's mind. For example, of all the gods, it is the Maruts whom Indra can count on most to be by his side when the going gets tough on the gruesome front line. Yet, for some mysterious reason, the Maruts show up late at Indra's grand finale against Vritra. Claiming the Maruts have deserted him in his greatest moment of need, Indra not only dissolves his friendship with them, but also threatens to take their lives. The Maruts plead, "Why dost thou wish to kill us, O Indra? We, the Maruts, are thy brothers." This is Rig Veda, Mandala 1, chapter 170. They remind Indra that his battlefield victories are in large part due to their camaraderie. "Thou, Indra, has achieved much with us as companions." Same Mandala, Mandala 1, chapter 165. Then what pursues next is a boastful monologue wherein Indra does his best to put the Maruts in their rightful place. "I slew Vritra, O Maruts, with might, having grown powerful through my own vigor, Indrayam. I, who hold the thunderbolt in my arms, have made these all-brilliant waters to flow freely for man. Almighty strength be mine alone, whatever I may do, daring in my heart. For I indeed, O Maruts, am known as terrible. Of all that I threw down, wherever he throws his thunderbolt." Okay, so yeah, this is saying, of all that I threw down, which means wherever he throws his thunderbolt, I, Indra, am the Lord. So Rig Veda, Mandala 1, chapter 165. After a little bit more bullying, Indra humbles himself to the Maruts. "Truly there they, the Maruts, are, shining towards me, bringing blameless glory, bringing food. O Maruts, wherever I have looked for you, you have appeared to me in bright splendor. Appear to me also now." It comes from chapter Mandala 1, chapter 165. By the time of the Aitareya Brahmana, the other gods also bear the brunt of Indra's accusations of wartime desertion, clearly, which seems to be a phobia for Indra. The Maruts, on the other hand, are showered with boons in exchange for their loyalty. Recounting one of Indra's battles, this scripture explains that in a state of paranoia, Indra misconstrues the motives of the gods who have come to assist him. With a single breath, he angrily flings them afar. Only the Maruts remain by Indra's side, singing his praise until the bitter end. That comes from the Aitareya Brahmana. In a rare moment of glory sharing, grateful Indra awards the Maruts a share of his midday Soma libation, their own Soma cup, the Marut Vaitya. The Marut Vatya Shastra, one of the two principal liturgies at the midday libation, and the Marut Vitaya Vajya. This is Sanskrit. The third thing is the Marut Vitaya Yajna. The Marut Vitaya Yajna is as follows. "Drink, Indra, the Soma's juice, surrounded by thy host, the Maruts, who assisted thee, Magavan, in the battles with the huge serpent." Despite the display of such honorary actions, it is hard not to question Indra's true motives. Indeed, the Shatapatha Brahmana claims, but he, Indra, was afraid of the Maruts' desertion. Lest they should desert me, lest they should take to some other party. So thinking, he by that share in the midday soma libation made them unwilling to desert him. It comes from the Shatabata Brahmana. So what this is saying is that out of fear of betrayal, Indra employs manipulative means to win back the Maruts' friendship, basically by sharing the soma. Indra's close-knit alliance with the Maruts endures for over 3,000 years, although their Puranic parentage and number varies significantly from the Vedas. You can learn a bit more about that in the chapter on the Rudras, the Maruts, in the chapter on the Rudras that we've done, and on Rudra. In the Puranas, Kashyapa and wife Aditi give birth to the Adityas, of which Indra is the eldest. Kashyapa has 13 wives in total, and it is with spouse Diti, which is called limited or bounded, who is Aditi's sister, that the epic asuras Hiranyakashipu, which means having golden clothing, and Hiranyaksha, the golden-eyed, are born. One day, out of grave concern for Indra's well-being, Vishnu puts an end to both of those sons. In a fit of rage, Diti enters into severe austerities, hoping for a son capable of destroying Indra. In time, Diti's intense spiritual austerities bring her the promise of just such a son. Upon hearing this dreadful news, Indra is frantic that his end is near. Hence, he watches for the first opportunity to prevent such demise. And sure enough, that opportunity arrives. One evening, Diti falls asleep before performing the prescribed ablution of her feet, a condition required for assuring the birth of a mighty son. Taking note, Indra slices the child in her womb into 7 parts with his thunderbolt. Each severed part survives, becoming yet another child, and all of them immediately begin crying. Deeply regretful, yet still concerned for his life, Indra again turns his thunderbolt upon the children, this time slicing each one 7 more times, and then there are 49 crying Maruts. Upon the birth of the 49 Maruts, Indra confesses his brutal actions to Diti and is forgiven. Diti acclaims brotherhood between her children and their nephew Indra, and from that day forward, the Maruts become the close associates of thunder-armed Indra. Very interesting. So I guess that's a Purana story. Cool. I'm always wary with the Puranas because they are latter literature that's not considered as sacred compared to the earlier true Vedic literature. But I digress. That has been the divine forces of the Lunar Nakshatras as portrayed in the Vedas. I knew that would be a long one, but I just love reading about all things Vedic, and especially about Jyestha's superstar Indra, which is my own nakshatra. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's a pleasure to see you folks. My name is Dustin Cormier. This has been How to Rock Astrology. Keep your eyes open because we've always got more nakshatra stuff coming out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. I'll do my best to answer. Take care, folks.